Welcome to Wake Up and Live with Christopher Flake. This is a daily podcast to encourage and inspire godly living. Let's join in and listen to today's message.
Good morning. Thanks again for tuning in today. I'm so glad that you could join me. Special thanks to all the different nations that leading. Big shout out to all those that listen in Ireland today. I know we have a lot of people in Ireland that listen to the show, so thank you so much for tuning in. You know, yesterday started on this topic that I want to continue to talk about over the next several days. You know, we talked about making decisions, what kind of decisions you and I make that allow the kingdom of God to come and begin to operate in our lives and we talked about the statement on earth as it is in heaven, and what these decisions that you and I make today and the things that we decide to do allow the power of God to move through our lives, so the kingdom of God moves through our lives, allows us to be successful here on earth as it is in heaven. And yesterday we talked about the responsible decision, taking responsibility for where we are today. We are where we are today because of our choices. The decisions you and I make allow us to come to the places where we are, and we need to take responsibility for those decisions and those actions, because when we take responsibility where we are of our past, we can also take responsibility of where we're going in the future when God and the power of God works through our lives. The kingdom of God becomes present in us. And so go back, listen to yesterday's. I hope you can get something out of it, because today I want to kind of move on to the next decision, and that's the guided decision. You know, most people mistake wisdom for education. You know, like high school diploma or a college degree. You know, seeking wisdom is not the same as gaining knowledge. You know, knowledge is the precursor to wisdom. You know, wisdom includes an intuitive element, an insight gained from personal experience that serves us and makes us make choices in our lives. And seeking wisdom should be a continual process. You know, the humility of wisdom seeker is a defining characteristic of being influential, wealthy, and successful people today. Wisdom is available to all, waiting for it to be known. It can't be a bartender or sold. Wisdom is a gift only for the diligent, because only the diligent find it. I mean, the lazy person doesn't look for it very often in the first place, right? You know, God moves mountains to create the opportunity of his choosing, right? But it's up to you to be ready to move yourself. I mean, there are 3 simple things you can do daily to chart your life to long search for wisdom. The first is to read, take counsel from others, and serve others. I mean, these may seem obvious, yet tragically, much of our society has ignored these 3 simple things, these critical distinctions, despite their availability. So here's some words of wisdom for you. The first thing is read. I know you're thinking read, that's it? Yes, read. Read books, magazines, newspapers, social media, inform, entertain. But wisdom is generally not found there. I mean, we're encouraged to read books as children, but as adults, we've forgotten this vital piece of advice. What do you call a child who reads 2 books a year, right? Slow. What do you call an adult who reads 2 books a year? Normal. Amazingly, the national average for books read by American adults is less than 2 books a year. I mean, you wouldn't believe how many times I've had people brag to me. I've determined when I get out of college that I would never read another book again. And I've been true to my word. I've read magazines and newspapers, but I've never read another book, and I haven't read a book in 20 years. I mean, they're proud of it. You know, I'll just kind of smile and nod and sadly think to myself, they are not on the path for personal search of wisdom. These are not the folks of whom I can afford to become close to. Their search for wisdom ended years ago. You, my friend, obviously already know the that few things affect you like the time alone with a good book. I mean, you get your highlighter out, you get your pen out, you begin to start to take notes. I mean, when you're not sitting with a book in our hands passively waiting for some profound words of wisdom to leap from the page. Rather, we're actively seeking wisdom. Even now, as you listen, I hope that something comes to you. As you're listening to this, you could hear some and get some wisdom out of this. You know, if you don't think you can take time to read, you can always listen to audiobooks. Whenever I say something like, people often tell me, you don't know what my life is like. I have a job, my wife has a job, I have kids, I'm the president of the social club. I mean, you're telling me you want to read books and listen to recordings? You're crazy. I mean, people think they have to have this clear the house and end their calendar to sit down at the table with a pen and paper and stare at the wall with their headphones while they take notes. I mean, you don't really have to pay attention like that. All you have to do is press play button, listen to it while you're cooking, mowing the lawn, or driving the kids to school. Listen while you're in the shower. Listen while you're sleeping. I mean, you'll get it. After all, consider the number of commercial jingles or television show theme songs that you have inadvertently memorized. If anything's going to be programming your subconscious mind, why not choose the programming? Why not choose something that can change your family's future for generations? I mean, there are many choices with literally millions of books out there and audio programs that you can purchase on the internet or through some local bookstore. There are many things that you and I can begin to seek out and find wisdom. If you're looking for something on leadership, you might want to check out John Maxwell. I mean, he's one of my favorite guys. 20 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, or Og Mandino. I mean, he wrote The Greatest 7 Things That Changed the World in his life. I mean, there are books out there that you and I can begin to read and get wisdom from, because I tell you what, if you begin to get that inside you, the wisdom that God says, seek wisdom, seek Him, and you'll find wisdom. And you know, if I'm not reading, it's just not to add the gun belt of the books. Hey, I read this. I'm reading, searching for wisdom. If you desire wisdom, read, right? You know, as humans, we're always changing. The past doesn't change, but you can change your future by changing your actions today, right? Change is inevitable. So we might as well guide the direction which we can change, right? So how you guide your direction of your change? Beside reading, you must choose your companies wisely. We all know how important the right peer group is for kids, right? Most of us parents are desperate concerned about the friends with whom our own children hang out with. I mean, we understand that our children are likely to turn out just like those friends. If our children and companions are doing drugs or having sex or using profane language, our kids are obviously at a greater risk for exhibiting similar behaviors. I mean, we're concerned about our children's choice of companions, and yet we ignore this principle as adults. I mean, at what age does this principle just kind of cease to work in someone's life? I mean, do we come immune to the influence of others at 18, 21, or maybe it's longer factor, maybe age 35, 40? I mean, you know what the answer is. The answer, it is always a factor. If you're surrounded by people who use bad language, your language will tend to be that. If you hang around people with certain viewpoints, you will be persuaded by those views. If you spend time with people who are lazy, you will tend to lean toward laziness. If you're comfortable with people who make excuses, you will tend to make excuses as well. You see, when you tolerate mediocrity in your choice of companions, you're going to become more accepting of mediocrity in your own life. I mean, here's something to consider. If a lazy person isn't an irritation to you, it's a sign that you've accepted laziness as normal in your own life. It's critical to choose your friends with care. I often ask people, what is a true friend to you? You know what more than 80% of the time I hear? A true friend is one who accepts me as I am. You know what, my friends? This is a dangerous garbage to believe. A true friend who accepts you as you are? I mean, the kid who works at the drive-thru at your local fast food restaurant accepts you as you are because he doesn't care anything about you. A true friend holds you to a higher standard. He or she expects you to do what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. A true friend makes you better by his or her presence. When you were growing up, do you remember playing tennis or ping pong with your father? I'm betting he didn't let you win all the time because he knew if he did, you wouldn't get any better. This works with the companions you choose. Choose allies who are better than you. If you want to get better at tennis, play someone who will beat you. Play it because it improves your games. I mean, this concept works in business. If you surround yourself with people who are better than you, then surround yourself, right? Guess what? You will become better. If you want to live with the power of the kingdom of God inside you, surround yourself with people that live that way. Surround yourself with people that have that power of God in their lives. For a great deal of my life, I hung out with a quiet guy who didn't talk until somebody asked him a question. When I understood the principle of seeking wisdom, his way of being became very clear to me. My friend had an abundance of wisdom, but you had to draw it out of him. He wasn't keeping it from anybody, but he was humble. And I really had to hammer him with questions. Why this? Why that? You see, only a fool refuses the counsel of wise men. As a business person or as a parent, a student, or as a Christian, there is safety in wise counsel. I had a friend of mine who had a history of bad decisions, right? And I would ask him, now, just out of curiosity, why did you talk about this? Did you talk to anybody else before you made this decision? And he would look at me like I was out of my mind and say nobody. I mean, and I replied, so did you ask anybody or just kind of decided? And then he would always just kind of give me that familiar and basic look at like, you know what, I'm an adult. I know what's best for me. I can make my own decisions, right? And when we take counsel from ourselves, all we receive is what we have, what we know, and what we are. Taking the counsel of wise men and women helps us avoid bad decisions and puts us on the pathway to a more successful life, a more empowered life. When we add someone's wisdom to our own, we greatly increase the probability of our own success. As you become more successful in life, you'll find that the path less traveled, there'll be fewer people available to you who are stronger and wiser than you, but believe me and trust me, you can find them. And of course, you can benefit from almost everyone if you're a committed student of wisdom. Somebody doesn't have to be wealthier than you than to be smarter than you. And everybody is superior to us in some way or many ways. And so we can always learn from anyone. The danger point occurs is when we begin to think too highly of our own wisdom and start ignoring the counsel of others. So in addition to reading books and taking the counsel from other wiser friends, a third way to chart your course toward wisdom is by serving others. Find a way to help another human being. This doesn't mean you have to do something grandiose or even something you consider incredibly useful. Serving others could be an opening the door for someone, carrying their luggage, pour their coffee, hold their chair out. By serving others, we value them, and this increases our own value. Perhaps not consequently, when we serve others, we increase the possibility that they would share their wisdom with us. So continue to cultivate this servant spirit. Think of things that you can do, maybe volunteering at your local church or community center, or go visit the elderly at the hospital. Think of areas that you can cultivate a servant spirit. Allow that to be a part of you. You'll run into people that you never knew, and guess what? You'll begin to gain wisdom. You'll begin to get around people that you may even become lifelong counsel to you and friends to you. So take the time to have a servant's heart and take the time to get to know people. So today, think about that. The guided decisions that you make, look for wisdom, find wisdom, take the counsels of others, and serve others. If you just begin to do those three things today and make that a part of the decision you make today, the kingdom of God will begin to move in your life. You'll begin to see God's power move through you. You'll begin to see success begin to rise up inside you. So today, I pray you'd wake up and live empowered, blessed, and loved, and you would begin begin to live by guided decisions that would take you to the next place and the purpose that God has for your life. God bless. Talk to you again tomorrow.
Thank you for tuning in today for Wake Up and Live. Join us each day for a new inspiring message. Also check out our Saturday morning's Word and Worship for 30 minutes of getting refueled. Plus our Sunday sermon series on the seasons of life.